meal be destroyed with bleach. For about 5 years now, Quail Hollow Farm has been growing organic produce and raising healthy, pasture-based animals, which it provides to members as part of a CSA program. And it recently held its first annual Farm to Fork dinner event, which offered guests an opportunity to tour the farm, meet those responsible for growing and raising the food, and, of course, partake and share in a meal composed of the delicious bounty with others and their friends. The Southern Nevada Health District, SNHD, got word of the event and decided to get involved. The day of the event, Inspector from SNHD, Mary Oakes, showed up and declared that all the food the Bleed Shoes would be serving was unfit for consumption and that it would have to be destroyed. Oakes insisted that the food be discarded and destroyed using a bleach solution. One of the so-called reasons for this action included the fact that some of the food packaging did not contain labels, even though labels are not necessary. If the food is eaten within labels are not necessary if the food is eaten within 72 hours. Oakes also cited the fact that some of the meat was not U.S. Department of Agriculture, USDA certified, that the vegetables had already been cut, were thus a biohazard. And there were no recipients for the food, receipts for the food, which was all grown on the farm, not purchased from a grocery store. Unaware of their rights, the Bleed Shoes initially complied with Oakes' unlawful demands and destroyed the food. But shortly thereafter, Laura's husband, Monty, remembered that he had an emergency contact for a farm-to-consumer legal defense fund. They called General Counsel Gary Cox and instructed him to ask Oakes for a search and arrest warrant, which, of course, she did not have. The Bleed Shoes then asked Oakes to leave the property, on which she allegedly stormed off in anger. And screamed that she was going to call the police. Well, when they had been called, what the alleged crime was, and so they too left, and they offered their apologies to the Bleed Shoes. The entire shocking incident serves as a reminder to know your rights when it comes to food and health freedom. Without a proper search or arrest warrant, so-called health inspectors or law enforcement officials have no business on your property. And if they ever try to pull a stunt like what happened at Quail Hollow Farm at your gathering, you have every right to demand that they vacate the property as well. Coca-Cola influences Grand Canyon officials to scrap plastic bottle ban. Plastic bottle waste represents the single largest source of litter at Grand Canyon National Park in Arizona, which is why park officials there have been working towards implementing a ban on the sale of disposable plastic bottles. But after a recent meeting with the Coca-Cola Company, which has donated more than $13 million to the National Park Foundation, the plan has suddenly and mysteriously been scrapped. A New York Times report explains that Stephen Martin, a top official at the Grand Canyon, had worked hard with his team to develop the ban that would suit all, including Coca-Cola, which sells Dan Santa brand water and other plastic bottle beverages at the park. The ban was all set to take effect January 1st, 2012, until Martin's superior, John Jarvis, called the whole thing off after a meeting with a representative from the beverage giant. That was upsetting news because of what I felt were ethical issues surrounding the idea of being influenced unduly by business, especially when it was the cancellation of the plan and there was no apparent reason. It was even more of a concern because we had worked with all the people who would truly be affected in their sales and bottom line, and they accepted it. Neil McCollum, president of NPF, insisted Coca-Cola never tried to stop the ban, but merely asked questions about why it was taking place and how it would work. But Susan Stribling, a spokesperson for Coca-Cola, also stated that banning anything is never the right answer, adding that such a policy unduly restricts individual choice. This, of course, implies that her company may have tried to have stopped the ban. Back in 2010, Martin presented data before NPF's Denver regional office and its Washington headquarters showing that the Grand Canyon sold roughly $400,000 worth of bottled water a year to park visitors. So it is safe to assume that Coca-Cola was likely concerned about losing the Grand Canyon market, as well as others within the national park system that may have followed its lead with bans of their own. Jarvis has stated that the ban will be tabled indefinitely, or at least until a meeting with the major producers of bottled water takes place at some point next year. Meanwhile, public employees of Environmental Responsibility, PEER, have filed a lawsuit to obtain records on the sudden about-face decision. A 9-year-old Florida girl is facing 4 felony charges after she allegedly threw a tantrum yesterday on a school bus, spit on the driver, threw rocks at the bus, and tossed a patio chair at a cop. The child, who's a 4th grader at the Royal Palm School in Fort Myers, was traveling home when the driver told her to stop eating candy on the bus. The girl became very upset and started yelling obscenities. After threatening to hit the other children on the bus, the girl then spit on the driver and jumped off the bus. She then started throwing pieces of asphalt at the bus. When sheriff's deputies arrived on the scene or the child to stop throwing the asphalt, she replied, "Shut up or I'll kill you." The child then picked up an aluminum patio chair and threw it at the officer. After blocking the chair with his arm, the cop restrained the child, who then attempted to bite his arm and said again, "I am going to kill you. Get off him." Pine-sized terror was charged with battery on a public school employee, resisting arrest with violence, battery on a law enforcement officer, and throwing a deadly missile into an occupied vehicle. Excuse me. The girl was released into her parents' custody last night and placed on home detention for 21 days. And I guess that's what taking someone's candy away will do to them. And then finally for tonight, have you ever wondered what happens if a salmon has dyslexia? Does it swim downstream? Well, that's it for me tonight. This has been Paul Landers for the Whole Agenda Radio Show. Rob will be right up with tonight's special guest. Thank you and good night.
And welcome back, everybody. This is the Whole Agenda Radio Show. I'm your host, Robert Pepino. And this evening, as our guest, we have Larry Hunter. Larry Hunter is an independent Egyptologist with over 30-plus years of research and experience. Larry was a navigator in the U.S. Navy, and he honed those skills. He was top in his class, and he simply transferred those navigational skills to his research into the Great Pyramids, which he's been able to determine that the pyramids are much, much older than we expect them, or that they have actually told us to be, that the internal structure of those pyramids were not carved blocks, actually, and those pyramids have existed for a very, very long, long time, and those pyramids, to top it all off, are a source of great energy for the entire world, which, again, has been suppressed. Larry, I want to welcome you back to this broadcast. It's a pleasure to have you back, friend.
Well, I'm glad to be here. Robert, are we going to go over the Skype on this one?
Yes, we are. That was my fault, Larry, because I had Paul on, and what I'm going to do is pull you over on Skype right now. So there you are. Just hang tight.
All right, I'm answering with video.
All right. And we are on live on Skype.
All right, I'm going to disconnect radio.
You got it.
Hi, Robert.
Hi, Larry. Sorry about that. It's kind of difficult to do because when Paul's doing the news, I can't really drag anything over. So my apologies on that.
No. We're off to a good start. I was listening to his broadcast there, and it kind of gave me a couple more minutes to get everything ready here, too.
And by the way, he says hello, and he can't wait to see you again.
Well, I'm disappearing this weekend and won't be back until the end of December, so we're going to have to wait till then at least.
Absolutely, and I look forward to seeing you as well. Just on a personal level, I find you very interesting, intriguing, and a wonderful human being. And if most people don't know who you are because there's this listening audience has grown since you've since been on. But Larry, let's jump right into this. What led you to your research into the pyramids?
Standing in the gas lines in the time when Carter was president, and we had to wait early in the morning to get gas if he could even find it. And at that moment in time, my mind, there's got to be an alternative to this way of life. And so I proceeded, as Carter would say then, I'm looking for a little black box idea. And during that period of time, being spurred by, the president saying, we're looking for something new, we need something new, I proceeded to start to read about the Great Pyramid and noticing a great connection with the sun, and the light that would reflect off of that pyramid would create constant patterns that would move as the earth would rotate, and the apparent motion of the sun across the sky became basically a program. And being a navigator and moving ships around the world, where the right ascension and declination is a star term for the positions of the stars relative to the point of Aries, 0 through the circle. And then when we get into the terrestrial side, it becomes latitude and longitude. Or when we have our latitude and longitude, the right ascension and the declination become the azimuth and zenith for the position of the observer. But in this case, the observer, me, being on a ship, calculating sunrise, sunset, moving ships around the world by the using stars and the celestial bodies to find all of this knowledge somehow encoded in the expression of the pyramid itself, which is kind of a double take in some way. What do you mean? Well, when we would look at Einstein, who discovers the math constant and the creative law of relativity, we find that Copernicus, Newton, all of the great astronomers of our earlier history in the 15th, 16th century were just rediscovering the solar year to decimal places and the sidereal and the animalistic or vague and wandering year. Well, all three of those fields of gravity affect the Earth over a 25,000 year period. And you say, why 25? Well, the diagonals of the pyramid itself, based on the 365 day year circle that we traverse the sun, by squaring those or taking pi and making the square, then we start to see that the diagonals will give us the laws of procession based on a 365, 242465 in a sense day. And everybody kind of, well, what's this guy talking about? Well, the common ancestry of all of us has its origins from this knowledge and the people that built these things in a time that I couldn't understand how the Egyptians could have done this in the 4 or so thousand year history, or 6 or 10 even, that man sort of gains the knowledge of the universe and gains the great knowledge of measurement systems, and then to create time and latitude and longitude and then erect these structures that would express all of those laws in its base circuit, and then to get the application of why would they do such a thing, they being the Egyptians of 7,000 years ago or possibly 10. That's an awful big leap with the accuracy in with which the building is built, as accurately as it is line to true north to this day, and level and incredible masonry that we see that's expressing a prior intent to counteract the effects of heat radiations and things as the sun's light would impinge on the surfaces left and right on the 4 sides. There would be a process of counteracting that refraction that we see sort of when we drive along the highway. The road seems to turn into mirages, and we see animals or clouds, or we think it's liquid, or whatever the illusion is. The idea in light control and stabilization is that this was a byproduct of the understanding of how to stabilize and gather light as a source of power or energy from that structure. Long story, huh?
Well, no, not really. I mean, it's just most people, of course, are going to have a very difficult time in following, especially the technical aspects of all that. I mean, I, for one, when I first met you and you started throwing all this at me, I was pretty much floored. But of course, I wanted to know more and more and more. But
Robert,
yeah,
the simpleness of it is that it's very simple. It gets difficult when you have to explain it. Really.
Right.
And so let's say that no one's allowed to remember everything that we talk about on radio unless they replay it. Then they may understand it or see it eventually. But that's why we write the patents that are referred to. And anyone that's listening, there's a lot of background in this, that this is not just today talking. This is from the 1970, mid-1979, 80 period. And that's a good while back, that all this research that I did to patent the process that we just described, which is the utilization of the light that's reflected as a controlled light back to a focal point, is a power distribution center then, similar to Barstow and Daggett and all the solar tower powers that you'll find around the world that are emerging now on great scales and will produce tremendous powers, because they're using the sunlight to boil or create steam, which turns turbines to create electricity. And today, with the nuclear power industry doing the same thing, is that they boil water, but using a really, really dangerous element that, if not a nightmare in itself to control and maintain for, long, long time.
Right.
You don't have that with this solar process, but you still get the same result. You're boiling water if you want to take it to that level, but I think it goes further.
Well, I agree with you. And look at the nuclear nightmare of boiling water that's still taking place from
Exactly.
Fukushima.
Why not use sunlight? And it's there. It's just that the knowledge of using the pyramids for those purposes has eluded mankind for the longest time. But that's why we write patents, and we want the teaching and the device to do what it's supposed to do. Those are the claims, and there are quite interesting claims that come when you look at this Great Pyramid, this geometry, and what it expressed as geometry, and how it interacts with the sun on planet Earth, because it is an Earth commensurate concept or idea, but it is a universal knowledge of any oblate spheroid, basically a planet, rotating around a stellar body, which is a sun, and with those orbital characteristics reduced down into a form such as the Pi Pyramid, the pyramid will process sunlight over that cycle again and again and again for thousands of years, and even into the millions, as long as the orbit isn't interfered with. And surely there's some understanding that we, being on a ball of sort, going through a 25,000-year circuit, cannot maintain the same axes without flipping in some way, quarter by quarter by quarter by quarter, and thus the four sides at any moment of a flip, if they flip equally at 90 degrees, would be processing the same system of light. I don't know. These people in the ancient times, they were pretty incredible just to express this object, but not around as people to give me the dialogue to understand it. So in the sense, the reverse engineering, taking what I know of astronomy, being able to calculate the sun's position, and then that position, the angle of incidence and the angle of reflection are pretty much the same. So then you start running ray traces and then trace that back to the apex, and you've got a lot of power, and it's flawless. It's just synchronized.
And it's continuous.
Oh, yeah. And then once, if you get into the global distribution of and control of the light, then I think we will start to find that most of the periods of history that had pyramids as places of human sacrifice were being misused by the people that were moving back in on top of what had been destroyed for many, many, many eons, ever before the tribal aspect of humanity came back in and was very territorial, very a hunter-gatherer or conqueror, take the food of the ones that were growing.
Well, let me ask you this, Larry, before we get into, your start in this, real quick. I mean, so many different pyramids have been discovered worldwide, and they all seem to they all seem to be probably built all around the same time or all within that same time frame. Do you think that those pyramids also worldwide were used for the same premise or purpose?
Well, I would say that, I agree.
Just speculation here. Just speculation.
Well, the theory precedes the application, Robert, and then let's say theory precedes application, then application proves theory. Thus is your epic discovery. I know that whenever I would theorize on my pyramid in, seeing that, well, if it's 12 o'clock, the angle of the sun is here in relationship to the latitude and longitude of the Great Pyramid. And then if I go stand in this position, then that sun should be hitting me in the face, reflecting off of the pyramid, angle of incidence, and, those forth. So when you build a mirrored pyramid and you go out there and you stand in that field of reflection because of the elevation of the sun, if it's a summer solstice, the rays depressed and pointing to the ground. And so you stand in that spot and surely there's the light. All right. Now, if I take it one step further and I have a little mirror, or I am like a mirror itself, and I look directly at the apex and I send all the light that's coming from the sun to the pyramid to my mirror back to the tip of the pyramid in an area that's maybe 1/10 the whole mass of the Great Pyramid itself. And that is the high tense focus of all the light that reflects off the pyramid and continuously channeled to there. Now, if, again, the listeners, I don't know, you have new, I'm glad, listeners, but if we think of light and what it does in that one blink of an eye or the 1 second, it's going to go all the way around the planet 7.5 times. Now, that's only in the blink of an eye, and then the blink of another, and then 21. I mean, the numbers are staggering as to what we're being controlling here in a continuous motion around the planet. Now, to send it from this pyramid to that pyramid, or they're all interconnected and sharing when they come into the portal of the gate, if you will, that the sun is in the light and the pyramid is the light. It's as if the earth rotates into the sun. And there's a noontime all the time on the planet. There's a sunrise place and a sunset place and a noon all at the same time.
Correct.
And so that noontime aspect is the maximum point of any day, and summer solstice being in the northern hemisphere for the northern pyramids, and December the 21st for the southern hemispheres, because that's their hottest day or longest day of the year. Because there's this balance going between 23 degrees Cancer and Capricorn that basically gives us our 4 seasons.
Right.
So this whole thing was well thought out, I'm sure, and I don't think we have to question that there are not pyramids in all these different latitude bands, and not too many above that, but we are seeing them in Bosnia and thereabouts.
Right. But the other question I had real quick was, they all seem to be located equatorially, or more or less 30 degrees north or south of zero longitude.
I know that, but then that's when you get into the understanding of these things and you look outside, you see, well, but there are those that are even higher in latitude than that 30 limit, 29, 54 for the Great Pyramid itself, being more or less the northernmost pyramid in that latitude band. Okay. But they do go higher. And if you listen to that guy over there, I can't think of his name right now, and I apologize to the listeners, but he first started out saying the 60s and so millions of years old also, and I thought that was interesting.
Extremely interesting. All right, so let's get back to where this started, because I know that you basically started with a friend that you met in Egypt, who you became very good friends with over a period of 17 years, Mundi Fed, and his family, actually.
Well, Mundi was about the second trip over that I first met him, and then I came again and again because we actually built, I guess it was like the Western ways kind of a flat or apartment. The plumbing is different for more or less, or we would sit on a stool as a whole or something in a septic tank, kind of you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
When you have the sanitation.
Yes.
So from the West, we would want to build, the drains going in from the showers and things of that. So we were living in his house and over a period of time. But Mundi Fed is a man of many that you could choose a name, and he has a history before I met him and while I knew him and after he's passed away, and even now, he's still in my heart and mind. But when you first meet these people, Robert, you don't know who they are, and the coincidences of as an example, I'm in America months before, and I'm looking through the books, and I find a Casey literature reference to the Hall of Records being sunrise, summer solstice, going over the right paw of the Sphinx. Well, as a navigator, that's a pretty easy thing for me to do, and so I calculate these strange lines, and I can go to that position and look and take his words literally and plot myself right to that spot. Okay, so I do, and I catch my sunrise, and boom, and I see where it goes across. But at that moment, I don't think I knew that the Mundi Fed, who I basically was looking for a place to stay, and someone took me to his house and introduced me to him, or actually it's apartment buildings, houses. And he said, come back the next day, and I did, and we were friends from then on. Because he really loved the tourists, and he was like a little Anthony Quinn kind of a character. But he was a hidden teacher for me because his family was into archaeology, the protecting of the monuments mostly down in the Saqqara region, the Dosar Pyramid, and the warehouses associated with the finds that were taken out of there. So when you look at history, and here you are coming over, I travel by myself, and I arrive, and sometimes I know before I go where I'm going to stay, more today than then, but at that time I'm looking and finding and catching my way, and this man is in that way. And then when you take him into your home, and then you find he's the one that owns this property that crosses the line for the entrance to the Hall of Records, or this long hall of them, it's irony. I don't know, it's synchronicity, something. But to be placed with people like that is I think, a blessing, and I love the guidance and care that this family provided for me in my pursuit of knowledge associated with the people and things of the Great Pyramid. And the stories this man could tell you, he just dumped them in my head. He loved to talk, and I loved to listen. But now it sounds like I love to talk, and I'm not.
Well, Larry, look, I understand that those people are the true archaeologists, and they know things that have never been released. And obviously, you've been told, taught, and discovered that yourself. And you didn't need the help of any curators, so to speak, and we know who we're talking about. But we can get back into that. But anyway, we're coming up on a break here real quick. So everybody stick with us. You're listening to the Whole Agenda Radio Show. I'm your host, Robert Pepino, and you are listening to Larry Hunter, Egyptologist, researcher of over 30 years. This man is incredibly fascinating, and wait till what he has to say till after the break. Stick with us.
To imagine when things are going reasonably well, just how quickly things can change. But what would it take? Economic collapse? Massive crop failure? Chemical or biological attack? So many situations could find you in the grocery looking to pick up food for your family, only to find that the shelves are empty. There's nothing. Don't let that happen. Act today to make sure that if it ever comes to that, you and your family will be provided for. Visit freezedryguy.com to look at the wide variety of survival foods available. Freeze-dried foods from the Freeze Dry Guy store longer, rehydrate faster, are nutritionally superior to, and taste better than any other long-term storage food available. Visit freezedryguy.com or call toll-free 866-404-3663. freezedryguy.com.
Concerned about the cost of quality water purification?
berkeywater.com.
Concerned about microorganisms in your water?
berkeywater.com.
Concerned about unknown chemicals in your water?
BerkeyWater.com.
Want information about water in the news?
BerkeyWater.com.
That's BerkeyWater.com. Call 888-803-4438.
That's 888-803-4438.
Berkey, because the water you drink may not be as clean as you think.
The people who had the spirit of Antichrist, they are of the world, therefore speak they of the world, naturally. And the world heareth them because it recognizes its own language. But we are of God. He that knoweth God heareth us.
These are the words of 20th century prophet A.W. Tozer. He is the author of over 40 books that you aren't likely to find at your local Christian bookseller. So where can you go to find such inspiration? Introducing Cornerstone Books, with the largest selection available of the writings of A.W. Tozer, Amy Carmichael, Richard Wormbrandt, and countless others. Cornerstone Books makes the truth available worldwide with the detail and personality of a local bookseller. Visit the website at www.cornerstone-unlimited.com for a complete inventory of its authors, as well as audio files and much, much more. That's www.cornerstone-unlimited.com. Or you can call toll-free at 888-239-9890. That's 888-239-9890.
Question. Are you always sick? I mean like colds and flus, feeling lousy. Does this happen to you? Are you tired? No energy? Bordering on depression? You know, when your body feels bad, your mind becomes affected. Do you want to change? I'm saying, do you have the desire to feel better? Life Change Tea to the rescue. Our customers have said since I've been on the tea, I haven't been sick. Wow! An all-natural product that fights sickness. If you're sick, you miss work. Is it really worth it? Try Life Change Tea today. Log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Or you can call us at 928-308-0408. Let me say that again. 928-308-0408. Life Change Tea is a member of the Better Business Bureau. Lose those unwanted pounds, be healthy, and drink Life Change Tea. GetTheTea.com.
The Micro Effect.
What ruthless madmen could have done this to us?
The United States government.
Stay tuned to the Micro Effect Broadcasting Network.
Welcome back, everyone. This is the Whole Agenda Radio Show. I'm your host, Robert Pino, and you've been listening to my guest, Larry Hunter, independent Egyptologist, a researcher of over 30 years. And I want to just let everybody know that the phone lines are open, so if you'd like to call in, ask Larry a question, or add a comment, the call-in number is 1-888-747-1968. He'd be happy to answer any question if he can. And Larry's pretty good at answering questions, let me tell you this. But getting back to what we were talking about, Larry, the one thing I wanted to add is that Mundi Fed's father was quite well-known and quite respected archaeologist himself. Is that true?
Absolutely. And so much so that at that time, the head of the antiquities in Cairo committed suicide because of the reporting of this man's father regarding the theft of the things that were discovered when Djoser's tombs were entered into. And so that's sort of the protectors of the monuments more than you would imagine, you know, because these are great discoveries. Even some of the stelas that would sit in the front door of the Cairo Museum today is found by this man's father. Abdelhadi Fayed would be his name, I believe. And Monday, who is a child of him, was also working and doing the inventory of the things that were stolen from those warehouses in Saqqara or the Memphis region during those years. Because, you know, the temptation of thievery and priceless objects, when you see these things from this ancient time, it's like a madness, I guess, can come over you because people go mad. They would kill each other. I mean, I've seen examples myself from people that I've known recently that these kinds of chemistry in the head change, and all of a sudden people are dead, and what is it over? Gold or a statue or something that has emeralds or diamonds in it.
Greed.
Yeah. And the whole time, these diggers of greed are missing the science of the place. Because to me, the knowledge is what brought all that gold there anyway. And we're not after the gold. We're after the science and the technology that can benefit mankind on a global level. And that activity is what brings gold or silver, if those are things that you would say is the signs of wealth.
Well, I think the wealth comes from within, not from what is gained through the exterior. Wealth is wealth of friends, wealth of family, wealth of knowledge, not wealth in paper dollars or gold statues or emeralds.
Yeah. Well, and that even knowledge too, Robert, when you look at it, when we share our research with other researchers, or one would think fellow pursuers of knowledge, you don't really realize how corrupt they are as well. They will take an idea and try to make it look like theirs. But I tell you, for somebody to come back with a background that I use to know what I know, if they can demonstrate to me that they can calculate these things, sun's positions in any day of the year from any position on the planet, is not an easy thing to do.
Well, that's something I'd really love to learn, Larry. And if I ever get a chance, and we are get together sometime, and you know I've expressed to you that I'd love to go to Egypt sometime, and I would love to learn. Believe me, I would really love to learn, because hearing about it and you talking about it, and saying the sun's position, zenith,
it's like a homing pigeon bird. Really, once you set this up, and you know where you stand, and you think of north, and you look at the calendar, and you should see sun is high, sun should be low. It's, all those things sort of, it makes a mind movie. You actually see the math of the objects, and then, sure, on summer solstice, that's as high as the sun's going to get for anywhere I stand in the northern hemisphere. It's not going to get any higher. I may go higher up toward New York, and it'll be lower in that sky because of my latitude. But that's as high as it's ever going to get for that position. You know what I'm saying?
Because of the circumference of the Earth.
Well, because of the way in which the Earth is rotating through the southern hemisphere, northern hemisphere, to give us summer, spring, autumn, winter, over and over and over. That cycle becomes a constant, and it is like, it's the prophetic thing that 6 months from now, we will be at summer solstice. I can say that truthfully if today is December 21st. And I would say, God willing, the Earth doesn't go off its axis or some other thing keeps that from happening. But it should, by the math of the universe, happen. That's what we base all of our control system. Time.
Yeah.
Time, speed, and our airplanes fly by it, and our ships move by it. And they're synchronized with GPS systems, and this is the way in which that knowledge is moving commerce today. But take that same technology and use it to control light in the same way. That's what's sort of missing on the level and scale with which it should be applied fully. Not just for Los Angeles or anywhere in the northern hemisphere or whatever. It's light, and it's 7 times around. And if we can all get together and stitch it all back, wow.
And light
will never have to want for energy.
Right, and light is energy. You don't have to take the light to create steam to turn a turbine. Light is energy, especially sunlight.
At those levels, Robert, that's, I think, why the industry today is afraid of letting this come forward fully to see what light can do under the conditions of a reverse system that is flawless in its understanding of light, and expresses everything that we need to control that light quite well. And it's in harmony with the sun again after this impact of 65 million years or so ago that knocked the Earth off the axis, that destroyed everything globally. almost everything on the planet living.
Well,
and it reemerged as what we have today, but the waters have gone and left lots and lots of dirt and mud on top of everything. Baghdad, Iran, Iraq, everywhere.
That's what I was going to get into next, Larry. And I just want to add it about the light thing real quick. If anybody's doubting what I say, what do you think they use fiber optics for? It's they're running light through a fiber optic.
And it's basic silicon. It's
that's
silicon.
it. But Larry, you were 100% right. And this is what I wanted to talk to you about. The catastrophe or this global catastrophe, whatever happened at the time, to basically wipe out most of humanity and have all that technology basically,
Didn't we just go through a roller coaster of the 55? Oh, it's going to crash into Earth. No, it's going to crash into the moon.
Right.
No, it's going to do this.
Right.
Oh, it's under control. Aliens have this. I mean, I'm glad I didn't do a radio show through those times, because what would you say is going to happen at that time?
I never even talked about it on my show.
No, I know. But that's the irony of it now is that they have come and gone since we last talked.
Yes.
And it's as if everybody's saying it before it happened. It was like, hold on a second.
No problem.
Hello? I'm on the radio, Randy, right now. Can I talk to you in a bit?
Well, it looks like we have Larry who's had to take this phone call.
No, it was just I apologize. It was I'm not so used to doing these things all the time, and I should have had the phone turned off. But that's the same phone you and I were talking on too, and unknown. And I think maybe it's you getting ready to say, cut it and go do something. Change the subject.
No, I wasn't going to change the subject. Just these things happen. What can you do?
Yeah. Or last time, I mean, what did we do? We had interrupted internet. We had interrupted telephones. You had a blackout.
That's right.
It was in October
Yeah, it was mid-October. The power just had gone out, and I guess what had happened is that a car hit a pole and damaged, I think it either damaged the transformer or damaged a wire or something. But look at how fragile, and this goes to point out exactly what we talked about. Look at how fragile this electrical grid is and how it's been created. And here's a perfect example, Larry. We don't need, a horrific Holocaust or some massive, asteroid, whatever. I mean, it's as simple as in 1859, when a massive X-class solar flare spewed out from the sun, it took out the telegraph system, burned up all the telegraph system, and actually killed a few people back then. Simple as that. Now today, and right now, the sun is ramping up, is going through a solar maximum. We just missed an X-class, by the way. But when one of these X-class goes off and it hits in the right direction, we could be without power for months, 6 months, a year, because these transformers we do not have. Actually, they're all outsourced, as like everything else is. So how long would the United States be out of power? So it's as simple as that. So talking about what you're bringing up, here, the pyramids, what they're really designed for pure energy, light energy that would encompass the whole Earth 24/7.
Exactly.
So
now, that's if we look at all of our forefathers globally. Do we reverse our technology if we're Chinese or whoever back and we find we have the same gravitational astronomy understandings of the universe? The Sumerians with full-on knowledge of all the planets before we even rediscovered them into the 18 and 19, even up to in the 50s, where we figured out the Dogon and the dwarf star, the Sirius A and Sirius B. I mean, the universe is like a baby to us, but we had culture that fully understood it in their literature.
But it wasn't a suppressed culture. That's the big difference.
Well, let's say we are what we are. That much we cannot change. We are right now to this day, globally, at this moment, we are at the same point in time, every one of us. We are here because of all the causes and the effects that make China China. all the cause and effects that make Russia, Russia. But backwards from all of them, you will come to knowledge that is universal, and it's the same all over at a time when we weren't even supposed to be talking to each other.
Right. So
history has gaps in memory. So when we stitch it back, don't feel, let the mind flow, see it, do it, understand it, and once you really get past the paradigm or the shift of it and appreciate the full-on understanding of their ability to predict where the sun would be and then be able to control that energy day after day, 25,000 years, and the snake bites its tails and the whole cycle starts again and again. And it takes how many of those to go once around 1,000,000 years? And then if we think of the trip around the Milky Way, that's going to take us 250 million years.
Sure.
And so these are vast cycles, and these culture and that understood it.
So do you think the Mayan procession of the equinox is a big player in part of this?
It's the same equinox, Robert, whether it's in Maya or if it's in Persia or if it's in Egypt. It's the same thing.
I understand.
Can't you see this? We're just a little tiny speck, if you get down to it, like a piece of dust. We aren't even a grain of sand in the size of any of this. But when we look at the Milky Way, and we got billions of stars, and then we look out from the Milky Way, we see a star, which is really another galaxy of billions, and within that billions, there's planets. And then when you get down to the planet, and you get down to your size, and you think of time, 70 years on this little thing, and what, we are the universe, or we control the universe, or we, how does this develop in the mindset of a race of people? There is a follow-on knowledge of it somewhere, surely, but we haven't accessed that aspect of the records yet. And history promises us that we will. And when we do, it will vindicate the ones that see it this way as opposed to the ones that see it another way. And to me, if anybody doesn't get past 10,000 years, you're not going to see this stuff because there's no civilization on the face of this planet that could construct what we see in the way of these ancient monuments today.
I agree with you full-heartedly. There's no question about it. And that's what I want to talk about, Larry. How were the pyramids built? People need to understand how these things work. Not the nonsense of cutting blocks. They would have to laid one block every 2 seconds in order to have those constructed in the manner that they say they were constructed.
Well, think of an engineering project today, Robert. I mean, you're going to lay some cement. What kind of cement? Where is it going to be? There's all kinds of considerations just to the mix, the pour, the kind. Is it going to be used in concrete bridges? Is it going to be used in your sidewalk? Where is this concrete liquid rock going to be used? Correct?
Correct.
Once you do, you have to know the cubic capacity, so you order so much, and then when you pour it, it pours into a mold, and when the mold is finished, that project is done.
Right.
Nothing is into something. Molded and formed exactly the way you wanted it.
Right.
Okay, now, look at the pyramid. Go to its smallest aspect, the aggregate. Look at the structure underneath the stone, underneath that stone, and how far down do we kind of have to do a strata cut to see the many, many methods of this material that takes its form, whether it's the mortar underneath the tile, that when we finally pour rough concrete and then we put some mortar mix and then we put our tile, and then the tile is beautiful.
Just to be clear here, Larry, we're talking about the interior structure, not the exterior.
All of it.
All of it, okay.
All of it. Even the parts you don't see, Robert. Underneath. As the saying would go, the city that's underneath, the subways, the corridors, the miles and miles of endless ducts that we call ducts, but they have a purpose, but because we don't know, we only see a piece of it. We don't understand that may be a 7.5 mile radius off the pyramid corridor for similar to CERN or something like that to keep a lot of light power moving in such a way that it could be distributed to the next facility that would go to the next one and keep that light moving, because it's not something that they wanted to stop. It's just that once the light enters in and it's continuously boosted by pyramid off 12 o'clock, and as he's rolling over to sunset, and at about The next one's coming up, and, basically about 24 pyramids placed around the planet would basically give them a full-on plug-in to the sun all day, being that it's 12 o'clock noon on the planet all the time, if you know what I'm saying.
Sure. But, and also, and I know this for a fact because you've actually shown it to me and I have it in hand, the coin aggregate you've found everywhere throughout the structures.
And this is where I was going, is that when you look at nothingness in your mind, if you can think of it this way, before there was ever a pyramid there, somebody had to think up that form. It had to be surveyed, it had to be leveled, or it was built to indicate level. Like, when we pour our cement, it's like a glass of water. It's going to have that levelness about it.
Right.
All right. So here you have this structure that's very level, level after level until it reaches its height, and it has its form, and it has its indentations. And every one of those, when you think of it, is just a piece and a piece and a piece. And when it's all finished being put together, it is the pyramid. Now, whenever you're thinking of cutting, or are you going to pour a form which will basically go butt up next to the next one? There is no cutting of the stone at all. There's a glass bead of some sort that's a sealant between the two that we find, similar, like we put tar paper sometimes in between the slabs that we're pouring so that they don't touch. But in this case, it has this sealant that locks them, and there really is no distance between the blocks when you go up and you look and study. But that coin and that aggregate, I call it, is in the mixture of pretty much everything up there. And it has unique characteristics that I, for one, do not think is a fossil of a sea life, but it is material-wise maybe ground up seashells and put into a powder, and maybe through frequency or something is vibrated and makes that little flat coin, because it's so mathematical in its size and nature of the 64th of an inch all the way up, that I found it odd that this could be something growing in nature, especially when I find them only one size in a statue, only one size or down for the hieroglyphics, and then the mastabas having a different size maximum, and then going down all the way to the smallest. And then when I get to the Great Pyramid, I find the largest of these coins, billions of them, in all of the core structure as it was laid on top of the plateau that we see, which is also a rougher aggregate of this mixture of coins. So after a while, you see it so much, it's like, why didn't anyone see this before or address it to say that it's a sea life? And in this particular case, I would say no. Then when I do see the sea lives that grow like little urchins, and you can see them attached to the stones, then I could say, now that is sea life, as opposed to those coins, which are all of the mixture of almost everything that you see, whether it's the Sphinx, the causeway, the plateau itself. It is a made area. It isn't cut and dragged, and if anything, the cutting and the dragging was using the place as a quarry.
Right. Well, the contradiction, all that, people always say, well, okay, where's the machinery for all this? That's what, that's the old standby. Well, but Larry, where's all the machinery for?
Well, where's the scaffolding to the bridges that built our freeways?
Right. And that's a very good point. That is a very good point. So, for me, I would say, okay, well, just like we do here, we use the machinery, we put it together, and then that machinery, whatever, goes on other jobs, and it becomes very old, it's dismantled, used for other things. So
forms, mathematical arches, doorways. You can order them on a computer, and then what material you want it in. And
right.
We do it with synthetic granites. What size is that counter? Okay, you cut it to this, and and that's all done by a machine now.
Right. Well, and that's what that was the whole thing, though, the pouring mechanisms where, and that's the whole thing. I mean, we're talking about millions and millions of years here. And by the way, let the audience know how you came to the conclusion that they're much, much older than anybody has ever really told, and is actually afraid to say any of this stuff in mainstream anyway.
Well, some of them want to say it in the sense that I don't want to use names, and I want to keep on the positive. That's why it's just kind of walk around thing. But the thing is that when somebody introduces a subject to you, and it's really not their subject, but somehow they think they're the author or the original, and then maybe they want to sue you later that you're treading on what I was doing, and et cetera. Me, I know where my ideas come from. I know where my what's the motivation? Yeah, the motivation, where I get it from. So, as an example, I was reading in a certain year, 2006 or 7, in that time frame, Sir Flinders Petrie's 10 Years Digging in Egypt. And in it, he says something to the effect that if you really want to know the true age of Egypt, you have to understand the water levels. All right. Me, I'm a navigator. I know what a fathom is, and I know what a meter is, and so I then proceeded to look at both sides of the Nile and see the watermarks on the east and then on the west, and then even into the wadis and things that would be the long finger of the river either coming down or the protrusion of the seawater going in, because there's some interesting ways to view the topography today as opposed to, let's say, before the flood. What did it look like? Or the flood of
Larry, let's hold it right there. We're coming out of a break, and we'll pick this up on the other side. Everybody stick with us. This is the Whole Agenda Radio Show. I'm your host, Robert Pepino, and you are listening to Larry Hunter, independent Egyptologist, and we'll be right back after this break. Stick with us.
Survival of the fittest. In any and all situations, survival is your #1 priority. That requires being tough and thinking smart. And the folks at Freeze Dry Guy are going to help you do just that. They have the long-range patrol ration entrees, what they call the brick pack. When you're in survival mode, it is absolutely the best item for your survival pack or bug-out bag. You can go farther, faster, and carry more food with the LRP cold weather ration entrees. Not only do these long-lasting, durable entrees help sustain you or your family through the harshest environment or situation, they are by far the most delicious of their kind. No contest. With a variety of tasty entrees, you can't beat the LRP brick packs. Let Freeze Dry Guy help you in your survival situations. Go to freezedryguy.com. That's freezedryguy.com. Or call 866-404-3663. That's 866-404-FOOD.
Hello, fellow patriots. This is Big John Lipscomb. There are just two types of people in the world. Those that see the world outside of themselves and therefore can finally estimate the direction things like the economy, the government, and society is headed, and those that can't. The majority of the people in the world are absolutely clueless to the trends and manipulations that go on around our world. To them, everything is by chance and in disorder. As a result of this ignorance, these people are always caught by surprise when governments fail, wars begin, and economies collapse. Every day, with each choice, you define which group you are in. SurvivalistSeeds.com and PatriotFood.com for the rest of us, those of us that are prepared and wide awake.
Address the skeptics listening to talk radio. You hear multiple commercials on products that make you feel better and help you lose weight, but you don't believe it. Companies come and go. People, I understand. You really are desiring a product that works, but you're tired of getting burned with substandard quality, gimmicks, 3 to 6 month get-involved contracts. Life Change Tea is different. I speak for Life Change Tea because I lost 25 pounds, lowered my blood pressure, and blood sugar levels. I sleep well at night, knowing Life Change Tea customers are receiving Real product that works, customer service, and customer satisfaction. So here's my spiel. Test us, try us, and receive results. And if you don't try us, that's okay. And if you do, you'll be a happy tea customer getting healthy. So order now. Call us at 928-308-0408. That's 928-308-0408. Or you can log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. In my opinion, you won't be sorry.
Crow effect.
With all that this great land has given us, shouldn't we think about giving back just a little?
She's right. I'm going to renounce my citizenship.
Stay tuned to the Micro Effect Broadcasting Network.
Welcome back, everybody. This is the Whole Agenda Radio Show. I'm your host, Robert Pepino, and you've been listening to Larry Hunter, independent Egyptologist. And for anybody who'd like to call in, ask Larry a question, the number is 1-888-747-1968. I always encourage phone calls. Larry, let's pick up where we left off.
Water.
Yes, sir.
Well, first, it's neat to be a part of the 11-11-11 broadcast. You only get to do it this one night, and too bad we don't get to take the show to 11.
Right. Actually, on my end, I do.
Right, all right, yes, because there's daylight in another part of the world and there's nighttime here, and there's a day ahead of us in the West. Yeah, time is a trippy thing to understand, but everything is 15 degrees is 1 hour, whether it's a plus or a minus. You have 12 of them of pluses and 12 minuses, so you have 24 hours, and 24 times 15 is 360, and that's all it's about. It's a simple circle divided into 24 parts, and those parts represent 15s, and that's time zones, and that's how people navigate. You're 2 hours, 4 minutes, and 36 seconds east of Greenwich. What's that mean? 2 times 15, that's 30. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
The latitudes and the longitudes are in those numbers.
I got it.
Simple stuff, really, it is, but some people get a little confused. But, all right, and in my pursuit of knowledge and all of this, I got confused too, because sometimes you look at things and it just doesn't make any sense. You just, it's like, I thought I knew everything about this place. Now I got to look at this. And what does this mean in relationship to understanding really all of it? And
right.
That's water. And I know the difference between salt water and fresh water. Me, I'm a navigator, and I move ships, as we kind of briefly introduced myself as. And so now the difficult thing is to go out and look at Egypt now with different bottom contour charts for those who may not understand them, that as the water gets deeper, the amount of land under it, if you look at what's there now, it would be at the center is the deepest water, but it would go from there, but it's still level at 600, but the land would come up and touch or be even with whatever that water level is. And being tidal, where it goes down and up, it left slosh marks on both sides of the river. And so what I wanted to do, and this is more or less, Robert, what my trip is about coming up, is that I need to write my book. I need to explain the technology from the ancient time, but to appreciate that it is from an ancient time, I also want to show you how it's from this time. And if I can go as far south into Egypt to where there are water issues to deal with, of the left and right side leaving high water marks, that's how far I have to go. And so as the water receded backwards, then I started to see the history of Egypt, or the hunter-gatherer returning to the land that had been submerged for so long. Now, that's sort of my thesis of this trip, is to finalize the research more or less of how I want to express what we're trying to talk about now, which is the full-on history can be understood if it's looked at under this methodology that I'm trying to describe to the listener tonight, and then document with a lot of photographs and things of the trip that I'm getting ready to take, because I'm looking forward to the ride on the train all the way up the Nile into cities that some I've never even seen before, and do my research and gather my evidences, and then come back and write about what it is that we're talking now. As my theory precedes my application, my applications will prove my theories, and we will have an epic discovery by the finish of this work. Because, I understand the pyramid for light, and I understand a lot of the governments and things that have this technology today. They know where it came from, but they won't come to me and say, we thank you for the great quantum leaps that you introduced to us in understanding light and how to control it. Never do I get this courtesy.
Well, I think they just finally apologized to Galileo, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Finally.
I'm in my 60s. I'm not going to wait for that phone call. But so that's what it's about. And so sometimes I may not want to talk so much about this piece of it, because there are those that will try to show you pictures on the internet and of my drawings and never explain to you where those drawings came from. And sometimes I wonder how they got them as well. I may have passed it to a friend, and the friend has introduced it to them, and then all of a sudden it ends up in their drawings or their technical conversations, without the understanding of why I drew what I drew, or what it is that they're showing fully to understand it. I mean, if you look at the water in between the temples of the second pyramid, and you see sea life, I mean, now imagine the ability, if everybody could do this, but not everybody can do it, but a lot of people can see it and talk about it as if they know how it's done. But look at the water at 200 feet from that spot all around you. I mean, you have to really become the polygon. From that spot, I have to have water until it touches level, all the way around on the other side of the Nile, all the way up through on the other side of Europe, the Mediterranean, and then back around to me again. I have to see that to really understand it. And then from that, it's easy for me to move that water up 300 feet, 600 feet. But now I have to go much further up the Nile, because this vast amount of water redraws as a level glass would be. And it takes years, really, to draw that by hand and follow all those little 200, or wherever the measurements that I would be going. And I like to share, but I don't like people taking it in a different direction instead of really explaining that this requires millions of years, guys. No, we'll talk 10,000 and we'll stay with the Casey Foundation or whoever says that the pyramids were built when the Sphinx was in a line with Leo, and that's 10,000 years ago, not to understand that occurs every 25,000 years, the same event, 25. So he can't use that as his bench marker as to when it's built, but he can say that every 25,000 years it will come back to the same point again and again and again.
Very good point.
Yeah.
And Larry, looks like we got a caller on the line. Feel like taking a call?
Yeah, a surprise.
And he's one of our regular callers, Roger in Kentucky. Welcome to the program, Roger.
Thanks for taking my call. I have an anecdotal story. It's not personal, about how far back the corruption in Egypt goes. In ancient Egyptian Thebes, there was a drought at one point, and people were going hungry, and the priests were also the administrators of the government. Well, the priests got so desperate they were stealing little pieces of metal off the temple gates and selling them in the community to take care of their own needs. Well, the local governor priest came by and saw the condition the gate was in with, these gaping holes in the metal, called everybody together, and they were expecting heads to roll, and what he did was demand his cut.
That's interesting.
I have a question. There, you talk mostly about the Giza Plateau. Are there other interesting areas in Egypt that have these ancient artifacts that perhaps haven't been explained as well as they should?
I think that's, in my way of going here, I've tried to look at as many cities as I can, and as high or up the Nile as I've gotten is Thebes. And Thebes and Luxor are really buried cities as well. When I get back in and I'm around Hatshepsut and I come down the causeway more or less closer to the Nile, and then I find ramps going down 40, 50 feet. And then underneath that dirt and mud, I find full-on structures that are similar to any temples that would be from a stone kingdom. But on top of them are mud bricks, hundreds, thousands of bricks to build incredible structures out of the brick. Don't get me wrong, but they're not of the same quality and the same technology. And when I look at the photographs of Hatshepsut up the hill, it is dramatically changed artistically, not really what we were seeing in the 30s today. And I find those changes interesting, but I also found mud on top of them as well. So I'm divorced from the Egyptians of today that we understand in the 4,000 or 6,000 years as having anything to do with that architecture, other than archaeologically they were excavating into a ruin of many, many years. And then when I come on around, leaving Luxor and the Sphinx is all buried, then I get to Dendera and I find incredible temples there with glyphs that have light bulbs and snakes, and you kind of figure, what is this about? But that structure, stone as well, is covered by a mud or brick fortress of unique qualities and natures that shows many, many periods of restorations in it as well. And then as the water receding more and more and more, it would expose Abydos. And here you have the Osirion, which is a good behind the Seti temples down below, full-on stones that look like the same stuff we see in the Sphinx. And the water levels around all of this are unique. But then following it all the way down, and then you catch to the points of Fayum, and I've left a lot out in between here. We have the fossilized dinosaurs in the western sides of that oasis. And they're dating at 40 to 45 million years. And then when we come with the same water level of 200 feet all the way around the pyramids, we find the fossilized sea life growing on the blocks there as well. So geologically, in the strata of geological evidence, I have to say the pyramids are before all of this sea life. And if this sea life is a receding, I didn't get to the point where it could go as high as it could, because, it's up into the thousands of the feet, the levels of this water that came in before it receded down and down and down, that mankind could re-encroach and bring civilization, rediscovery after rediscovery as they dug further into the mud down to these old buildings. And that to me is the facsimile of Egypt is the same story. They never change it because it's a copy of the original old story that was maintained dynasty after dynasty because that was the political system. That was the pharaonic line of right to rule, or now you're getting into other subjects that take it too probably far for the average person here. But my idea is to basically write the story of Egypt unfolding by receding waters of an indication of millions of years. And then when I get to the pyramids and I see it start to be exposed and the levels and things that mankind can get around and I can see tunnels being drawn or dug into tombs that are called tombs of the birds, but really they're even older than the tunneling that's done on them because they are already intact structures that man has just busted through a wall and still trying to get access to this underworld. And it's sort of twisted because I have sea life growing on the blocks beside those doors, which tells me they were underwater. And as the water was receding, man did try to get into this place because this place is like, 150 feet higher by the sea levels receding than the Great Pyramid. So stuff like this I want to research more, and I want to write about it in such a way that it supports a more scientific way to review the history of the place to get to the history of the original people that did this, which are our ancestors to me. I mean, it isn't a ET matter here. This is an Earth idea or a commensurate system. The knowledge could have come from the universe because it's universal, like I said before, but I think it's uniquely Earth because we are the ones. Look at the people on the glyphs. You don't see grays and ETs and stuff like a lot of them would try to say, but you do see glyph of their presence through in some ways in these monuments and ruins.
Well, real quick here, Larry, that and I've seen this on the History Channel, I'm sure you have too, as a description of the so-called rulers of the time with the very elongated skulls or, a headdressing that using at the time very elongated. So what do you make of that?
History gives me a myth of them existing in the way of giants, and we read an awful lot, and we see structures that would say, "Wow, that's an awful big door going in there. Must have been a very tall man."
Right.
Why are you building ceilings so high? But we find most of those over in the Syrian architecture, that's sort of out in their ruins, where this whole city's like this. But coming back, I mean, when you get into Abu Simbel, you got huge, gigantic statues of people that were very large, and they had little people always down around their legs. Now, at the point in time when the water was up around 600 feet high, Abu Simbel was underwater, really, in the ancient time. Now, as that water receded, it was probably one of the first monuments that came exposed for man to come in and crawl around on. But it, to this day, by the water reversing back to 600, was elevated above where it should have been as far as the elevation above sea level. So that if they didn't move Abu Simbel's big statues up above onto that hill, with that water behind Nasser Dam, that's exactly what we would have seen in the ancient times. Those statues underwater. Again, because when we look at the satellites of that particular water input, the fingers going back into pre-existing water levels is very, very apparent when you go zooming down and look at Google very closely. It's just the refilling of the bathtub, if you will, that is now exposing what it was like to create those level marks on both sides that we see to this day.
Let me ask one clarifying question, and I'll go. And thanks for taking my call. The ramps you described at various places like Thebes, I wasn't clear. Were those going up above ground or down into the ground?
Down into the ground. I got.
Have you been into those? Have you been into some of those underground entrances in Thebes?
They are. I know that when I was there, the people that were around it, because it's so newly, I guess, opened up, is that Obama was allowed to go down in there, and I photographed it all from way up above, from one end of it to the other, to see how much stonework was underneath the bricks, the mud brick coming up, and how it was all cased. But to get into it, it would have to go, let's say, from the desert level area there would be a slope going straight down till you would catch what would be the level of those buildings underground, and then they're now going underground. You can see it. It's like an open courtyard in a building, and then you just keep on going under the ground, far back in. I don't know how far. I didn't get into that.
Is this close. Like our military tunnel system out west, that they literally had a tunnel system at some point there that covered most of Africa there?
I would say it looks like it's buried, and man excavated down to it. And in that excavation, because the ceilings are still intact and they are honeycomb, it's just like walking down into a sub-level of a shopping center. If it can relate to the feeling, you could go back under the ground once they hit that level where all those buildings were. But from the tops of the buildings coming up was sand, mud, brick, that was exposing an open pit that you could see down into, like the Galleria, for no other words.
Okay, thank you. You're doing some excellent work. Look forward to your book. Bye.
Thank you very much. It's one that I think that it's time to write it. It's something that it took me a lot of years to see all of this. Where I originally went in looking at light and pyramids only, and then I got off into so many different tangents that eventually, it's like something until he clicks, you can't want to go and study it because it isn't in your mind to study. But once I started looking at the water, like I say, now I feel that it's quite comfortable to lower the water, you're at this city. Lower the water, you're at this city. And the idea that as the water lowers, you expose a city that was there all along, but until that water lowers, you can't get back to it. Then as the water receded more, the city that's just been exposed has been explored, and then another one comes up, and another one as that water recedes until what we see is the Nile today, a river. And on both sides of that river, as you go further to the east and further to the west, you'll see the thickness of that mud or sediment layer of the many eons of time that water has dropped and silted and clayed as a strata in the whole delta or the whole basin of the Nile, all the way to the Mediterranean.
You're very right, Roger. Yeah, you're very right, Larry. And I would also add to this that if you take a look around the world at most of your ancient cities, those cities have been built on top of cities on top of cities. Now, as ancient as those structures are, God knows how many or how deep those underground chambers, and like you said, best way to describe it is a sub-level of a mall. How many layers deep does it go? If they've been around for a better part of, 25, 30, 40, 50, 60 million years, whatever the number is. The number of structures built one on top of the other would be incalculable.
But in some sense now, in these particular areas where, if you look at Turkey, they have a lot of stone carved, as it's described, tunnel systems and rooms and stuff where man went down and survived through ice ages or whatever, but man lived underground for a long time in these caverns that were somehow manufactured, made, cut. I don't know. I'm not going to go debate that issue. But now when we get into the Valley of the Kings and we look at all of this, I mean, really, it's an impressive thing to look under it and see it from a 3D model. All of those rooms and the angles and the, structures, that it's as if they were also made long ago. And as the water receded, mankind came out of those places. And then in the sequence of ensuing times, man decided, at least the pharaonic side, that he would bury himself in places that already exist.
Right, which is kind of habitual with humanity on this planet, I would say.
Find a hole, a nice one. Nobody knows this dig, and we'll stick our friend there, and then we'll bury him back, and then people's archaeologists today will come and say, oh, Hututu Pepi, or whatever the imagination can go. is the one that did whatever he says they did. Just because he says it, it may sound good, but I don't put a lot into that.
Right. I wanted to talk about the hieroglyphs for a little bit, where you do see things that do look like light bulbs, and you do see things that look like, helicopters, modern day helicopters. I would say this, and this is just speculation on my part, and I'd like to get your answer, is that if there's been, civilization after civilization, who's to say that they never reached that kind of technology? You're saying verbatim that those stoneworks were poured. Well, you would have to have a high level of technology already to do that at that time. So that would stand, in my eyes, to say that, hey, then if they're able to do that, they were able to have flying machines, they were able to have vehicles to travel in of some kind, and through the eons of time, because if these machines were made of metal, well, what happens to metal? It rusts, decays, it falls apart, and goes back to the earth. Hence, there would be no real evidence of these machines or mechanisms. They found a few things, for instance, like the Antikythera mechanism. The only reason I believe that survives is because it was buried, in the ocean. Basically, it was, what's the word I'm looking for here, Larry? It was mummified in a certain sense, I guess. So it did not deteriorate any further than it did. And basically, they were saying that was a computer created how many thousands of years ago, and it might go much further than that. So, to me, that would make sense. What's your opinion of that?
Well, the whole thing is that when we look at today, we give ourselves credit. I can't say we. Humanity is at the front of technology, right?
Right. Well, I won't go that far, but
in this analogy.
Okay. All right.
Because we're using our front end understanding of technology to understand a piece that we just found in the sea that was preserved in such a way that when it was reassembled by our technicians, it indicated a science that before was not considered possible by those people, of which we don't know where that object came from and who had it. It could have been passed on. It could have come out of some tomb. It could have come from somewhere. But whoever figured it out or who was carrying it may not have even had the idea or knowledge to fully understand it as well. Because Robert, it's an
Speak your mind, Larry. Speak your mind. This is what it's about.
The loss of technology. All right, you pick it up and you look at it. It just looks like a piece of flat metal that's rusted. Right? Okay. But then you're another guy. You have an astronomy background, and your dad made Elgin watches, and you watched him play with them a lot. There's a lot of similarities in this piece to those Elgin watches that my dad used to work on. You understand this?
Yes.
So he looks at the same object differently, and somebody else may have a full-on degree in the whole thing mechanics, at least by a computer who can copy anything, whether he understands what it is or not, and his machine can duplicate it and repair and what would be all the movements and everything by this machine who can see that, not that the machine understood how to make it from the original idea, but it could copy it.
Right.
Make it again.
Right.
There's a big difference between those two methods of the knowledge.
I agree. I definitely agree. But still, the mechanism exists.
Yes, and it does express that knowledge. And if you had something need for all that data, that little device sure would be the touchpad of the time.
Right. And Larry, you got to hold it right there because we're coming up on a break. So everybody, this is The Whole Agenda. I'm your host, Robert Pepino. Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, Larry.
No.
We'll get right back to the other side. You listen to Larry Hunter. We'll be right back. Stick with us, everyone.
Survival of the fittest. In any and all situations, survival is your number one priority. That requires being tough and thinking smart. And the folks at Freeze Dry Guy are going to help you do just that. They have the long-range patrol ration entrees, what they call the Break Pack. When you're in survival mode, it is absolutely the best item for your survival pack or bug-out bag. You can go farther, faster, and carry more food with the LRP cold weather ration entrees. Not only do these long-lasting, durable entrees help sustain you or your family through the harshest environment or situation, they are by far the most delicious of their kind. No contest. With a variety of tasty entrees, you can't beat the LRP brick packs. Let Freeze Dry Guy help you in your survival situations. Go to freezedryguy.com. That's freezedryguy.com. Or call 866-404-3663. That's 866-404-FOOD.
Hello, fellow patriots. This is Big John Lipscomb. There are just two types of people in the world. Those that see the world outside of themselves and therefore can finally estimate the direction things like the economy, the government, and society is headed, and those that can't. The majority of the people in the world are absolutely clueless to the trends and manipulations that go on around our world. To them, everything is by chance and in disorder. As a result of this ignorance, these people are always caught by surprise when governments fail, wars begin, and economies collapse. Every day, with each choice, you define which group you are in. SurvivalistSeeds.com and PatriotFood.com for the rest of us, those of us that are prepared and wide awake.
Okay, I want to address the skeptics listening to talk radio. You hear multiple commercials on products that make you feel better and help you lose weight, but you don't believe it. Companies come and go. People, I understand. You really are desiring a product that works, but you're tired of getting burned with substandard quality, gimmicks, 3 to 6 month get-involved contracts. Life Change Tea is different. I speak for Life Change Tea because I lost 25 pounds, lowered my blood pressure, and blood sugar levels. I sleep well at night, knowing Life Change Tea customers are receiving real product that works, customer service, and customer satisfaction. So here's my spiel. Test us, try us, and receive results. And if you don't try us, that's okay. And if you do, you'll be a happy tea customer getting healthy. So order now. Call us at 928-308-0408. That's 928-308-0408. Or you can log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. In my opinion, you won't be sorry.
The Micro Effect.
With all that this great land has given us, shouldn't we think about giving back just a little?
She's right. I'm going to renounce my citizenship.
Stay tuned to the Micro Effect Broadcasting Network.
And welcome back, everyone. This is the Whole Agenda Radio Show, and I'm your host, Robert Pino, and you've been listening to Larry Hunter, independent Egyptologist. The man has incredible knowledge of Egypt, spent over 30-plus years investigating, researching, and finding out the true meaning and knowledge of the pyramids. And for anybody who'd like to call in, the number is 1-888-747-1968 and ask Larry whatever question that he's able to answer for you. But anyway, Larry, I didn't mean to cut you off at the break. Let's finish up what you were saying, because I wanted to get to something else after that.
Break. And I got myself Coca-Cola.
You shouldn't be drinking that, you know.
I know it's sugar. But I'm still packing to leave, and so I got an awful lot of little things that I'm doing this evening to get ready, but I like taking this couple hours out. And
I thank you. And I thank you for doing it.
Well, it helps me too. You know, it's like the jello of the mind is that we think and think and think, and then all of a sudden we take actions on what we think. And on a trip like this, where I need to prepare, there's cameras involved, there's a lot of equipment, computers, the meetings that are set up for what my activities are going on, coordination of being picked up, movement. And it's a lot of work. And the better prepared you are, then these things hopefully will have a good result in what it is that I want to do. So what we're looking at right now, if you go and you look up my name, Larry Hunter, on the internet in Egypt, you'll get a lot of hits, or in some sense hits. You will at least be directed to my website, which is larryhunter.com. And in there, most of the people that are listening to you for the first time can get some kind of a background on what I've been doing over the years. Now, a lot of those things in that website are from the 90s, and they are years ago. And Egypt has changed a lot, and I've changed a lot. In all of that, when one makes a discovery, one has to take responsibility for that discovery. Well, one of the first things that I really independently on my own, never having any suspecting that it existed, was a secret chamber inside the Great Pyramid. And I think this great secret for so many years is something that has the ability to affect a lot of the minds of humanity. And right now, where the country is going through a lot of political changes and growth, and I thought that maybe this time was a good time to go and reintroduce the effort to make that kind of discovery known. It would give the Egyptian people, this is a hope. Great thing is in this pyramid that we didn't know before. How will it affect us? Will it make change? Will it, that's the drive of the mind, the hive, that once you start this activity afoot, it is another way to take the mind away from all of the little problems that they may be having or facing, and then hopefully in some other great way that it will have a lot of the tourism industry return.
Well, let me ask you something before you get going on that, Larry. Especially right now with all the turmoil going on there and here, this massive uprising taking place in regards to the austerity measures, to basically the devaluation of everything and this massive crash. But that's what I mean. It's global. It is global. But I mean, do you feel any apprehension about going at all?
Well, the apprehension is that they may say no, but that's not enough to stop. You have to insert will. I will myself. I will go. I will do these things. And that's the self-commitment. And behind anything, I think it takes that kind of energy to get something moving. And if I don't try, then I'll never know. But by going and doing, then we can know the fruits of our efforts. Will we either grow or not? And my hope is for humanity is that please let's look at these ancient devices and see the knowledge that's there and how it can transform our world today into the light age, and get access to the libraries that say, yes, the right ascension and the declination and all this that I've been talking about is already there.
And I just want to interject something here. For anybody who doesn't know, that Larry does have patents on these structures. Okay, basically restructured.
No, it is the geometry of the Great Pyramid.
Right. It's the geometry of the Great Pyramid. He just basically reintroduced this, and you can actually find his patents online. So it is all there for you to study. Sorry, Larry, I didn't want to cut you off, but I think people needed to know that.
I thought to try to put that in a little bit earlier, and when we were talking, to get a little background, because this is an awful lot to memory.
It's only a 2-hour show, Larry.
Exactly. And, a lot of the things that if I wasn't leaving soon to go. I would love to spend, more time doing interviews with you, as you know. But now that the hour is upon us, and it's like, all right, buddy, before I go, these are the things I want to accomplish. And then, hello, everybody, on the next broadcast, these are my failures, or these are my successes.
Well, hopefully you won't have any failures. They'll all be all successes.
Right, but the beauty of life is that we don't know.
Right.
And we still take a chance, and we do, and we try to do it legally and straight away, so that there's no a feeling of a snake here. I'm not looking for something from them. If anything, I'm trying to show them something that they can't see themselves right now. And it does belong to them, and it is their responsibility, and it can be a national awakening to the truth and the depth and the history of the ground with which they stand, and underneath it is all these mysteries of the deep from the ancient time. And it should be an exciting time to let go of romantic Egypt, of the last 7,000 to 10,000 years of man's encroaching hunter-gatherer, returning to the lost places of ancient times, and now really pick it up and clear the dirt away and sand and stuff, and resurrect this ancient place. Because there's more under it, like the iceberg in the sea, than what you see up there by the pyramid or 2 or 3. Imagine a city under there that it has its own lakes.
It's incredible. It really is.
I mean, if the ones who've done that research, and I don't want to take their work from them, but I think all of us, like the 5 or so people trying to describe the elephant, if you'll listen to all of us in the different pieces that we've all uniquely rediscovered, and then assemble them in such a way that they are integrated. There are tunnels, there are passages, there are ways that this place goes that maybe not the main door, somebody's been in. He talks, that talk goes out, it goes around. It's a rumor, it's this, it's that. But behind most of it, it's true if you really, really, really follow it, because that's how stuff comes up. And there are those that make up the lies too. Oh my gosh, it's full of liars as well. But that's the nature of it. You got to have the ability to discern, to see, to the wisdom. Who's lying to me? Who's telling the truth? What do I see? What do I know?
And then you discover your own truths.
Yeah, exactly. And then you go back and you sit down and you write a patent, or you take the technical merits, because a lot of times when you're over there, they will come, oh, do you know who built the pyramid? I'm so tired of hearing your story, please. No, don't tell me that story again.
Right.
Because I'm just looking to know what I want to know, and I have to travel with them in their cars, and I have to try to learn their languages and eat their food and become, in a sense, acclimated to the environment that I want to know about. And a lot of people get lost there. They bring too much social stuff and problems from the West, and understanding and misunderstandings of communications is a big issue of a lot of people. And it isn't an easy way to travel, but I think the heart is the best way, heart and love. And even if they steal everything you have and they say you have nothing, they take care of you too.
Well, I think you brought up a good point, heart and love,
Yeah.
I think that is probably the big light, and that's why you have made such close friendships out there, and they have taken care of you, and as well as you have taken care of them, to bring all these discoveries forward. But Larry, let's get into it, because we don't have much time here. The secret chamber. Let's talk about that for a moment.
Well, the part where I first
start wherever you like, and not at the beginning.
Well, most of it's written in the website. If you go and you read the point where I'm going, and I'm going through my first 6 days in Egypt, because this happened on my first trip, 1979, I believe. And I don't know, everybody has these kind of experiences, but when you get scanned by a building and you sit up and whatever comes out of your head and your mind, and in a sense, I'm listening to myself talk. That's a new dimension. It's not something that I have every day. I don't sit there and just sit up and start talking after being scanned or something. So the place, I can't explain it, but I know that it can change and affect a lot of people in a lot of ways, whether it's piezoelectric energy or it's the soul of another ancient one coming back and getting into your body instead of his, and he's confused, or he's not confused and you're confused because he's just in a hurry to get into your body because he's been away for a long time. I mean, the dilemma of comedy is funny here, but that's the potential of playing around in these buildings that if you want to go get awakened and then all of a sudden you're awake and you say, well, I don't like being this awake.
And there's there's also a lot of remnant energy that still exists in those buildings because of their antiquity.
Right. Is it me? Is it you? Who are you? Who am I? I go schizo on myself all of a sudden after having gone into a place, without ever questioning who you are. But then after those things go, there's another state of mind that's coming out. And as that states go, I know the difference between me saying something and something else saying something for the perspective of that. And the example would be, why would I come out of the pyramid and say, wow, what a neat disguise. Nobody knows who I am.
That's a good way and unique way of looking at it. That's for sure.
I mean, for me, who's thinking that? Why am I saying that? Nobody knows who I am anyway. It's like, who are you? Oh, I'm just a tourist that just got abducted in the pyramid by energy. Nope, that's not going to work, in the sense of it. But really, why would something like that come out of my head? Other than it's like, as for a momentary feeling, you can feel like there's two parts to you from then on. And I don't want to sit here and make it sound like I'm a schizo in that level, but
well, no one's saying you are, Larry.
No. The perception is that
it's your perception, right?
Or am I myself talking and something else is talking? It's a mean discipline. It's like telepathy. It exists. What are my thoughts? What are your thoughts? Well, I was just thinking about you, and the phone rings. I was just thinking about you.
Right.
That paradigm is always present with us to this day. I mean, we don't understand our own human potentials, I guess is a good way to say that.
I'll agree with you 100% on that statement you just made. We certainly do not understand our human potential. I think we're barely scratching the surface. Larry, what's in that chamber? Can we talk about it? Do you want to talk about it?
Well, I could only give you myself personally. I have not been in it. Myself personally, I have been affected by what is in it. And then from the perspective further of my desire to know or reveal that particular room that I may have discovered along the way that others may have already known about it as well.
All right, and one more quick question before you get full.
Yeah, it's a wind up because it's something that until my eyes see it, I don't really want to say what's in the room.
That's what I was going to say.
From the other eyes, I could say that so-and-so at a certain point in time, in company with X, Y, and Z, did go into this place, and then.
Right.
But.
Well, let me throw out my question real quick to you here. On this trip, is that going to be revealed? Is it going to be put into your book?
Well, I would say I can't answer yes or no. It is my intent to make it or my effort to get them to acknowledge that the chamber does exist. That's step number one.
Okay.
And then to do step number two is to make a official press release that says there is a secret chamber in the Great Pyramid. And then from there, you have to have responsibility, Phil, or Robert, in this, because the objects or the things in there, once they are revealed, you can never, ever put them back.
Well, I don't think we want to put them back.
I know, but the manner and power, when you're dealing with things that old, and they are going to dramatically alter everything, I would think it would be prudent to study the ramifications of the release of such information. It's as if we don't want to bring it out yet until some things are made ready for it to be brought out.
Okay, well, I would say this to you, that right now, this world is in such dire straits and such dire need of all the exotic technologies that have been hidden from us. But I would say, if anything, at this point in time, if this information were to come out, and I'm not going to say it, and if you want to say it, it's up to you, but I'm not going to say it. But I'd
like to hold it from the mystery point. We're close to the revealing of the room, the contents of the room, and where they lead to. That's I like the movie world. That's the hype that will bring the tourists back. It's the hype that will give the Egyptians a national purpose.
Wouldn't you say for the whole world, though?
Well, in this case of the baby, it's a brand new, delicate thing. Who is worthy to control these things that really, if you could understand what they could do with this technology, you'll know what I'm leaning on.
Yeah, of course. Always in the wrong hands causes destruction. I mean, well, that's without a question.
Until you can guarantee that, let's just say, all right, maybe another country's in control of that country, and if they do it now, and then that other country takes it, and then, whoa, what do? But if they have control of their fully control, and they bring it up, is the big bully on the block going to be strong enough or demanding to take it on the spot?
Well,
that's the concern that I have.
I agree with you, and the United States is very capable of it. But I will, because I don't care. I will. The United States is very capable and has done it many, many times. I talk with this about one of my guests. He's on every Tuesday. We talk about what the United States has done, and the bottom line is, they've usurped a lot of things worldwide and put it into their hands and not released it even to us. Nobody. So there's something severely wrong. There's something.
My own patents. I feel this.
That's what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying to you. So the bottom line is that, once again, if we have to go through this tragedy of all this important information that needs to come out, once again becomes usurped, it's pointless. So I agree with you to the certain extent that, yes, it has to be treated like a newborn, but it has to be in the guiding hands of the right parents. I agree with you.
Yes. So this is why I prefer, in the sensitivity of it, it is, what kind of place would you call it? Oh my goodness. I haven't had this kind of ponderance to describe it. It's a place where certain objects sit. There are rooms that go off of this place. There are shafts that go from the floors down thousands of feet. There are shafts that go straight up the center of the pyramid to the apex. My own ear has heard this aspect of them from the apex, so that's something I can share. I mean, it's an external probe listening people downstairs working in those spaces, hammering away, and I'm listening to them on the apex of the pyramid. So I know it's hollow from that sense. And then when you get into the dimensions of the objects that are in those rooms, that's another story. And until the archaeologists can get in there and properly identify it, or some odd, maybe strange case, some of the pieces are missing from many years of people going and taking things out.
Well, that wouldn't surprise me.
Well, I hope it hasn't occurred, and I hope that if it has, they will bring them back. Because these are sacred pieces, and they wouldn't be in that building and in that space if they weren't. Now, just because Alibaba found the way in, I don't want to go there, but now let's do the responsible thing and systematically make the announcement and then do the discovery.
Okay, I'm with you. I'm with you 100%, Larry. It's just, we've had this conversation before.
I know.
I guess I'm a little overzealous myself,
It's your conversation. You made me think about it a whole lot more. as well as others, and the responsibility of it. It isn't just like, oh, goody, goody.
Right.
I mean, I know. I've been in it a lot of years, and I've seen as Casey would say, it can't be revealed until those things that are around him are correct. I think that now is the time. They may be correct. I may be wrong. I may be right.
Now,
but the effort is needed, and I'm going to take it.
Okay, real quick here. Now, Hawass, is he not in charge anymore, or is that an on-off situation?
Sorry, I don't know him in any archaeology circles today. I don't hear that name.
Okay. Okay. I thought I'd ask.
Well, that's my answer. He doesn't. His name doesn't come up on the radar, other than maybe the closest thing I can get is that he may have left an awful lot of people around in places that can obstruct
or be the eyes and ears
legitimacy.
Yeah,
it's like anything. The remnants of one political regime and then another one coming in. You've got those ones that don't want to see you succeed because, we just lost our jobs.
So, Larry, when are you leaving for your trip?
I think that's not fair to ask somebody. Maybe interfere with my arrival or departure.
In a close vicinity.
I'll go. I'll be. This weekend I may leave.
Okay. Right. Well,
I'm leaving Sunday. Sunday's my departure.
All right. Well, look, I want you to have a very safe and prosperous trip because I expect you back on the show with a heap load of information because I'm really looking forward to it. I got to tell you. I wish I was going with you.
Well, and I thank you, Robert, because, in the time since I met you and all that's been going on, I know we share a lot of things that don't make it up on the broadcast here. But your listening and your understanding of this and my efforts and what I go through to go there and really, how can you not sit down and feel the tears or the pain of the individuals that you're visiting?
Agreed.
And do nothing?
I totally agree with you.
And when you are, this is a compliment.
Larry, I know, thank you. I appreciate it. We're coming on the end of the show. Real quick, Larry, throw out your info so people can find you on the website. And, again, I look forward to having you back on the broadcast.
LarryHunter.com is my website. It hasn't been updated in a long while, but it's something that to understand what's going on tonight, you should see the background of what we didn't talk about and a lot of the reasons why.
Absolutely, 100%. Larry, I want to thank you. You have a wonderful and safe trip, and I will talk to you soon. Everybody, this has been the Whole Agenda Radio Show. I'm your host, Robert Pepino, and we'll see you on Monday. Have a great week and take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.
I want to address the skeptics listening to talk radio. You hear multiple commercials on products that make you feel better and help you lose weight, but you don't believe it. Companies come and go. People, I understand. You really are desiring a product that works, but you're tired of getting burned with substandard quality, gimmicks, 3 to 6 month get-involved contracts. Life Change Tea is different. I speak for Life Change Tea because I lost 25 pounds, lowered my blood pressure, and blood sugar levels. I sleep well at night, knowing Life Change Tea customers are receiving real product that works, customer service, and customer satisfaction. So here's my spiel. Test us, try us, and receive results. And if you don't try us, that's okay. And if you do, you'll be a happy tea customer getting healthy. So order now. Call us at 928-308-0408. That's 928-308-0408. Or you can log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. In my opinion, you won't be sorry.
Hello, fellow patriots. This is Big John Lipscomb. There are just two types of people in the world. Those that see the world outside of themselves and therefore can finally estimate the direction things like the economy, the government, and society is headed. And those that can't. The majority of the people in the world are absolutely clueless to the trends and manipulations that go on around our world. To them, everything is by chance and in disorder. As a result of this ignorance, these people are always caught by surprise when governments fail, wars begin, and economies collapse. Every day, with each choice, You define which group you are in. Survivalistseeds.com and patriotfood.com for the rest of us, those of us that are prepared and wide awake.
Of the fittest. In any and all situations, survival is your number one priority. That requires being tough and thinking smart. And the folks at Freeze Dry Guy are going to help you do just that. They have the long-range patrol ration entrees, what they call the Break Pack. When you're in survival mode, it is absolutely the best item for your survival pack or bug-out bag.